And we're live. This time we're sure that we're live. I hope, inshallah. Um, hello, Habibis, Habibtis, and Habib and Bees. Welcome back to another episode, day
Sorry.
of exchange. I don't know what the fuck this is.
Sorry, that was me.
Um, we're gonna talk today about the ceasefire and what it means that this has happened. What kind of implications does this have for Palestinians in Gaza and for Palestinians and pro-Palestine people all around the world? What do we do now? And yeah, let's take it away, Rachel.
Okay, cool. I just spent the last minute and a half wondering if we were actually live, but I think we're good.
We're good,
I just
right?
think that no one's actually here yet.
No.
Hang on, I'm gonna post a story, but we're gonna start talking. I'm gonna post an exchange
Habibis,
story.
Habibtis, and Habib and Bees, we are live and alone, like because you guys are not in the chat, and also we don't have any guests today, so maybe it's time for you to join in. Yalla, we're waiting. Very demanding. I also need
This
the
is our
link.
boomer code that is
I
coming up.
need the link for this stream actually. Uh, so we
That
might,
just occurred to me too. I'm
so we might be live, but it's
literally
still very boomer code.
manually typing the link URL into the Instagram.
No, okay, no. This is next
You
level.
doch. All right.
Okay.
We're almost ready.
I mean, yeah, we are ready, kind of.
God, I'm sorry. That was such an incredibly professional introduction that you did.
Yeah,
And I
that's the only
really,
thing I know how to do, and like,
it was exceptional, and I really botched it.
okay.
Okay, we good. All right, 3 Zuschauer.
Is it us?
Yalla. No, I think it's more than us.
Okay.
Okay,
So yeah.
cool. Let's say it again because now we have a few people in here today. We're doing this a day early. First of all, because scheduling wise, we needed to do it a day early, and also because there have been so many developments in the last few days that it just makes sense to hop on and go through them. I think a lot of things have changed, and a lot of things have remained the same. And let's start out with what has remained the same. And that is that the entire time, and I posted a video last night. It's my first video in ages. I haven't even been on social media, but I posted a video because I saw a lot of people celebrating in a way that felt, to me, very disrespectful and kind of dishonorable to the cause and to the way that we relate to it. That's not to say that we shouldn't celebrate this moment of relief for our people in Gaza, because of course we should, and of course we are relieved. But the reaction, in the sense of celebrating as if we've achieved some tremendous victory, and particularly as if we in the West, in Europe, have achieved some tremendous victory, I found to be really misguided and really problematic, disappointing, and in this normalizing liberal kind of way, harmful to the movement, because it's a distraction and it's kind of unprincipled when it doesn't come from a place of understanding what this moment means, which is for the people in Gaza and no one else. So what I want to say that remains the same is that the entire time we have said Waffenstillstand reicht uns nicht. Ceasefire is not enough.
Yeah.
And what we ended with was Olaf Scholz and Netanyahu and so vor Gericht, that we want to bring people to the court, to the Hague. From an abolitionist perspective, that's not exactly. It was a good chant. what we are really fighting for, and I think anyone who's on this stream likely knows this, but let's say it anyway, we are fighting for Palestinian liberation. Um, I mean, I said it yesterday in my video, so fuck it, I'll just say it here. We're fighting for full Palestinian liberation from the river to the sea. We fought for almost a year and a half. We fought the state and the cops to even be able to say that. And going back on that and celebrating as if this is the moment we've been awaiting and fighting towards and struggling towards is I find to be a dishonor, not to just to the cause, but also to the people who have gotten beaten bloody to a pulp on the sidewalk by, let's say, the German state for their supposed stance on Palestine. So that's a
And
basic
can I
idea.
also say something like
Yes.
this is so what we're returning to, just to make this like a little bit clear for everybody who's been on the streets hopefully and who's really like put their bodies to the to display solidarity with Palestinians. What it means is we're going back to conditions even worse than the 6th of October, which means we are not even like for 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 a Palestinian in Gaza, it has not improved one inch. And Palestine is not free. Gaza is not free, even if we partake a partition liberation. Gaza is not free, and the job is not done. Like we, our only, I think our only goal or our only acceptable means should be yes, we're happy for the people of Gaza. We are
We recognize
we
the
recognize
Palestinian resistance as having achieved something momentous and tremendous
it is
for, yeah.
it is literally a strategic victory for the resistance because we have now seen that uh, armed resistance is also a way to achieve liberation because all of the other ways have not worked against this settler colonial entity. Um, our job right now is we can be happy, we can even celebrate, we can uh, give sweets, we can do dabke. What we definitely always should do is keep Palestine a focus for many of the people that are listening. I don't know how many people are listening, but for many people who are now active in the movement, it was not an issue 2 years ago. Palestine was just a topic that you avoid at parties. Palestine is a cause that needs discipline. And I think Hiba talked about it last time. We need discipline. Palestine is not liberated. We get we are happy for the small victories. What we want is the big victory, which is full liberation of Palestine. So yeah, I think yeah, I don't
No,
know.
and I think that this is the central point because we see in the movement these same types of voices who saw this very opportunistically as a way of gaining clout or even out of a little bit of guilt out of seeing what was happening and it was so atrocious that they couldn't even ignore it. I mean, I don't know what percentage there is to that degree, who have engaged for those reasons, but this remains the responsibility of this remains our responsibility to look at what happened, what will continue to happen, because as we'll get into in a bit, Israel has broken every single ceasefire they've ever negotiated.
Yeah.
And even if Israel and the West, who, to whatever degree they hold them accountable, goes through with the ceasefire, hundreds of thousands of more people will die as a result of the genocide, which is an ongoing genocide. Just because the bombs have stopped dropping, inshallah, tomorrow, doesn't mean that the genocide is over. The healthcare system is completely annihilated. There's no education. Children in Gaza haven't had education in a year and a half. There's no water infrastructure. There's no telecommunications infrastructure. All of this has been completely destroyed systematically and intentionally. And it was in the interest of destroying the means of life. So even if a ceasefire was forced, even if they got to that point, which I don't think they thought that they would, I do think that the entity was fucking stupid enough and misguided and arrogant enough to think that they would genuinely triumph, or at least there were people who genuinely thought that. They still did create a situation where the genocide would continue enforcing itself, even after they stopped bombing. And that is what we must focus on and must continue fighting against. Because now, even if the question changes, or even if the struggle changes to be from fighting against German weapons deliveries, let's say in Germany, or American weapons deliveries, to the provision of humanitarian aid, that is an equally critical, of course, fight.
Yeah.
The focus or the formulation or the messaging might change slightly, but our responsibility is only growing. And I think it's decisive and scheidend that people understand that in this moment, that this is not to rest. This isn't a moment for rest. This also isn't even a moment to continue on the same track. This is to say the destruction will become exponential now. Now is when we see how exponential it will become. As soon as journalists get in, as soon as humanitarian organizations get in, we're about to see just how catastrophic this is, and it won't even come close to what we thought it will be. It will be exponential.
I
So
mean, we've read reports on this broadcast. We've read reports even before we've about like the Lancet, which was a very, very like minimal estimation. It was very, very conservative as the estimate of how many people are very likely to die because of the conditions created by the genocide, which means to be killed, whether it's directly or indirectly through the conditions that Israel has created for Palestinians on the ground. Um, the point is, I think we have um, two things that we need to be we need to acknowledge at this moment. First off, is the agency of Palestinians. This was not done through you and me. This was not done through you and me. This was not done through the people watching. Yes, we can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. This was done through the efforts of Palestinians on the ground. They managed to deliver a, a defeat to their oppressor, and this is number one. And number two, that does not mean that we don't look at their suffering. The suffering will continue as journalists go in, as you said, as doctors go in and see the horrific amount of war crimes that Israel has been committing for the past 15 months and even before. Like we're talking about using using food as a weapon of war, which is why Netanyahu and Gallant are in The Hague. They have been using that as a weapon of war, as a weapon of as a means to continue the this apartheid structure that keeps Palestinians as lesser human beings to as opposed to Jewish people who are considered the class one humans in comparison.
Mensch.
Yeah. Um,
I just want to. Oh, yeah.
it smells like fascism. I don't know, yani. It certainly smells like
Stench
fascism.
of fascism, or it could just be that we're in Germany.
No,
So
yeah, yeah, this is
I just wanted
awful.
to read because this was kind of I remembered that this was what I was talking about was this quote by Ghassan Abu Sitta, who wrote, "Israel and Western governments plus some humanitarian organizations will try and continue the genocide post ceasefire. The destruction of the physical, biological, and social in Gaza has created a biosphere capable of self-sustaining the genocidal erasure through disease and injury. This must be defeated."
Yeah.
I think that sums up the entire responsibility and also what the next 14 years are going to look like, because that's what I read, that it will take 14 years with, I believe, minimum with the amount of funding actually required and resources actually required to clear the rubble from Gaza. 14 years.
Yeah. Uh, God damn it. Okay. We have. Okay. So is the job done? Answer is no, the job's not done. We need to continue fighting for Palestine, continue talking about Palestine. And right now is literally a very crucial moment because many will look away. Many will think, oh, yeah, um, I did my part. I looked for a little bit and now I'm done. The job's not done.
I would also just call out, and this is something that we've talked about in previous streams and something that's been kind of not weighing on me per se, but has been a priority in terms of talking about and strategizing about and thinking through, is that the more repression um, we live through, for instance, in Germany, the less creative we become because there's just less room, there's less time and less freedom to sit around and think, how can we actually think critically? How can we actually be of help outside of doing some demonstrations in the streets and having a few events? And I think now is the point at which it makes the most sense in this moment where maybe there is a tiny bit of relief and this is a moment to sit down and say, what can we actually contribute outside of the framework that already exists? And for me, this has meant looking into strategic legal defense campaigns. That's been big. Right now, it will also mean huge things within healthcare. So to all of our healthcare professionals and providers and people in the healthcare industry, this is going to be crucial, not just to send the aid necessary, but to organize here aid in like mass aid the way that it will be required. And what I wanted to call out is the Hin Rajab Foundation, which is something that was born out of watching IOF war criminals travel the globe. And it's this new foundation that's been established to hold them accountable and make sure that there is not free mobility around the globe for people who have committed war criminals and taken part in the genocide in Gaza. That
Yeah.
is a brilliant, and not just brilliant, but utterly necessary and central aspect of what accountability and justice will look like in the aftermath of this genocide. So thinking in this respect, not repeating or even repeating with intensity what's been done before, but coming up with new campaigns and new initiatives. It's up to every single one of us. It's not something someone on social media is going to do. It's not some head of a humanitarian organization who's going to do it. It's every single one of us to show up and spearhead these types of initiatives.
I mean, get creative. It is the time to get creative. And I know we have a lot of creative people within our spheres. So I would like to talk about the actual ceasefire proposal because, and I don't mean this as like a diss or anything, but there was a lot of kind of confusing writings about the ceasefire proposal, and we can maybe I don't know we
Which
can
is
maybe
also, of course, by design, that a lot is left vague.
yeah, I mean, yes, the and just before we start, I just want to shout out the also insane war criminals that we've seen in the US that are literally enabled that have literally enabled this genocide by making propaganda, faking lies, faking arguments against the 31st of May, the proposal of the literal same ceasefire deal that is minimally changed. Anthony Blinken and Matt Miller, which has the most punchable face on the planet. Uh,
He is like the face of the devil. Looking at that guy's face, smirking, and by the way, shout out to the two journalists who disrupted the last press
yeah,
conference of the Biden administration.
their names
Hell yes,
were
should
yeah,
have done it earlier, but
their name was I think Samer Hosseini
Yeah.
and
Max Blumenthal.
Max Blumenthal. Shout out. What's very disheartening is the amount of other journalists who sat in that room and said nothing, as these people, these two brave journalists who are doing, like, literally, if you have any journalistic integrity, you or a normal human integrity, or just integrity in any way, shape, or form, you would stand up and say, hey, you have lied to us consistently for the past 15 months. You told us that this is not right. You told us that the ruling of the ICJ does not mean that there should be a ceasefire. And all of these things turned out to be lies. And now you're doing your victory lap, even though this entire administration had basically nothing to do with the signing of this deal, which I would also like to talk about. Um,
I just
Trump,
brought up the journalist piece
yeah,
because I believe Max Blumenthal said, Matt Miller, you smirked through 15 months of genocide.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, how did no one say that sooner? Every time I actually can't look at this
No,
stupid asshole's face. He's like a reincarnation of whatever. I don't need to compare him to anyone. He's evil enough standing on his own.
yeah.
Um,
But
yes.
which also brings me to our evil faces here. We have the what's his name, the Wagner, the guy with the glasses, who I have never seen. I've literally have not heard him say anything other than the same thing. Like his complete useless. I swear to God, you can play all of his Aussagen. It's
Mm.
basically the same thing. Just get me a recorder, an old timer recorder, and just play the same shit, and I would know exactly that it's the same guy.
Wait, is this the guy who said that he's going to go to Palestine after, or Israel, or whatever he said after the genocide is?
No, I think that was
That
the
was
other
Zelensky,
one.
right?
That was the other one. We have two. I mean, listen, Germany also has its share of assholes. Yani we don't need to just
There's no
continue.
shortage of genocidal monsters here.
Yes,
Let's put it
but
that
but
way.
but do you but the like the funny thing is they don't have a job. Like their entire job, their job description is uh like don't say the truth. Like somebody asks you what's your name, why do you want to know what's the this is there was a meme of like, yeah, how did you get the job, and the person just makes a fake answer, and they're like, oh, you're hired. This is this
Yeah.
he Both of these people have said nothing throughout the entirety of 15 months. They have said nothing that is remotely critical of Netanyahu, of Israel, of the right wing Israeli government. And
Mhm.
what's very like what's very on brand for Germany, I have to say, is these people spread the same propaganda that the right wing
Yeah.
Israelis spread, which means like Germany, with all its liberalism and talk about human rights and all, and the sanctity of a free press and all of this shit, literally spreads the propaganda of the right wing Israeli government. And I'm saying on brand because they, like, Germany loves fascism. Like,
But the craziest thing now is like you do see it reflected across the political spectrum. But I think the example of the AfD is absolutely hysterical. So at their Parteitag, at their party convention, whatever last weekend, they literally sat around and talked about how Holocaust denialism should be legal and how maybe it was 3 million Jews who were murdered. Like, we can't know, was an actual quote of what came out of this Parteitag. Shout out to the anti-fascists, 20,000 people who mobilized to Riesa to disrupt this
yeah.
Parteitag, by the way. Rad. Uh, and then at the same time, they are actively supporting Israel and Zionism. So they make no effort to hide their legitimate anti-Semitism. Like, that term is so loaded, but these people actually embody it in a very genuine and very committed way. And at the same time, they are 1,000% behind Israel and
Well,
genocide.
we've had the Alice Weidel,
Yeah.
what should we call her? An oxymoron? Like, she's not a normal moron. She is an oxymoron, I swear to God. Um, so she said that, first off, like, the insane thing of, like, Hitler was a leftist, and then she followed it up with, "Look at how these people say free Palestine." Mind blown. Like, actually, these people have the IQ of a chihuahua, like an inbred
Wah, wah,
chihuahua,
wah.
like, and and I don't know, and they still get votes. The
Wait,
reason
by
they
the
get
way,
votes, yeah.
Alice Weidel didn't just say Hitler was a leftist, she said Hitler was a communist.
Oh yeah, yeah. Just, I mean, if
Oh,
we're out if listen, but it's also on brand. They want to change
really?
history to how many million Jews were killed by Hitler, and they also want to change history regarding Hitler and communism. It's there is a Hitler fixation, I would say, and
There
yeah,
is, but of course, by pitting the left against by putting or like darstellen,
mhm.
representing the AfD and the far right as the heroes compared to the left who are demanding something, the communists, the socialists, making the communists and the socialists Hitler, demonizing the left. That's a tactic as old as time. Um,
Literally used by Hitler himself. Like, yeah,
yeah,
this
exactly.
is,
They
oh
really
my
take
God.
a page out of the old German history book.
I mean, yes, there's a book called "Learn from the Germans." It's about
I
how,
know,
like, yeah.
liberal Zionists, but yeah,
Hmm? Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I know the the arguments. Oh my God, this book was, yeah. Anyway, let's not do book critique
No.
because,
All right. What you want to dive into the actual ceasefire
oh
proposal
yeah, the
because I think
actual
it's
ceasefire deal. We open Instagram because this is where we get our information, of course. No, but
don't
I mean,
say
like,
that.
hmm?
Don't say that.
No, it's not. But hey, come
I'm
on.
kidding. I'm kidding. We're very transparent about our sources.
Yeah. Um. Okay, wait. Before I do this, I have to kind of change something with the sound and um. Okay. Okay.
Look, so maybe we start out by saying this is not terribly clear because a lot of these points remain vague intentionally.
Mm,
Um, I think a part of that is also given that, as Karam mentioned, this is the exact same ceasefire proposal as was presented by Hamas in May, was it?
yeah.
Save for three minor non-material amendments that came at the end. I believe in an appendix
Yeah.
was what actually was changed, but the entire bulk and body of the ceasefire agreement has remained the same for, I mean, what is that, over 8 months, while the US empire, through its lapdog and watchdog of Israel, committed genocide.
Yeah. Uh. Okay. Just, I'm gonna
So here
try
we are.
to do the switch. You guys are gonna see the screen. You might not hear our voices in the beginning, which might be a relief to some of you, but to the others, it's not. We'll be You'll be hearing from us in just like 30 seconds or something.
Yeah. Okay, cool. If anyone wants to come in and write in the chat, much appreciated. If you can let us know if you can hear me and or Karam. So okay, you wanna let's I can just start off, and if someone wants to write in the chat if they can hear Karam, like we'll okay. All right, so then I'll start out with what's on the screen. So this is what we just said, basically that this was the ceasefire deal, not just presented by Hamas, but was something Hamas accepted in July, and it was not accepted. It was then shut down by Israel and the U.S. by extension because they wanted to keep genociding because they wanted to fulfill their war goals. And by the way, I always find this to be so hysterical and also so pitiful that their war goals were to defeat Hamas, to destroy Hamas. Like the whole paradigm is such a complete nonsensical joke. Um, but okay, so that's where we're at. You want to go to the next slide?
Yes, I do want to go to the next slide. I think they can hear me now. So if you guys can hear me now, say something. So
This
yeah.
is not a good sign that no one is engaged enough to even write in the chat, yes, we can hear you.
Oh my God. Do we have bots waiting? No.
In like
We
now.
have bots watching, I think. No, I'm messing with you. Guys are not bots, but oh wait. Okay, now we're back. Okay.
Yeah, you
I
just
think I
X'd
think
out
they
of
can
the
hear me. I think they can hear
yeah,
me.
yeah, but you just X'd out of the now we just see the okay.
I'm back. I'm back. Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah, but you're sharing the screen. You're sharing the okay, that's good. That's good. Now you're sharing the right page.
Yeah, the boomer codation is insane. Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
You
so
take over.
I would so the it consists of three phases. The first phase focuses on immediate humanitarian aid, exchanging hostages, and initiating a gradual withdrawal of Israeli occupation forces. This phase includes only partial ceasefire, as Israel agrees to halt aerial military attacks for 10 hours per day and 12 hours on days of hostage swaps. This is actually not completely true because I was also very confused when I read it in the beginning. This is what it sounded to me. So but the first stage, now we have the full text. The first stage: temporary cessation of mutual military operations between the two sides and withdrawal of Israeli forces eastward and away from densely populated areas next to the border. A halt of military and recon
Reconnaissance?
air
Recon.
operations in Gaza Strip for 10 hours a day and for 12 hours on the days of release of detainees and prisoners.
Okay, break that down because
So,
that's a key point that
so
isn't
yeah,
immediately clear.
what I understood in the beginning was like, okay, so that means they stop bombing for 10 to 12 hours a day. This is not a ceasefire, it's just not a ceasefire. But military and recon air operations means that during the times when these 10 to 12 hours, that would be during the time when the detainees would be moved or released. So the key point here is, so Israel does not know where they were held, because if they did, then they would go in and then we'd start all over again. So this means a ceasefire, a complete ceasefire, and
Of attacks.
of
So
attacks.
so that is 24 hours a day,
Yeah,
this temporary, this 42 days of no attacks, no
yeah,
bombing,
yeah,
but only 10 to 12 hours a day where air operations are not taking place to
yes.
allow for the release of the hostages. The
This
rest of the time, they can continue
doing recon,
circling.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is what I understood. This is what I was told, and this is what smarter people tried to explain to me for like at least more than 30 minutes, and I was still going back to like, but does this mean only 12 hours a day no bombing and then continue bombing? So this is what we ended up getting. And on the third day after the release of three detainees, the Israeli forces withdraw completely from Rashid al Street towards Salah ad-Din al Street, completely dismantle the military sites and installations in this area, and allow the return of displaced to their residence without carrying weapons, because most of the
So with
displaced, yeah,
checkpoints.
yeah. So you have checkpoints. Um, yeah, this is also very indicative of what they're trying to do. Uh, First off, the resistance does not need uh, civilians to carry weapons. The resistance has not even been defeated in the north, even through many days of long days of bombing campaigns. It was not defeated in the
And by
north.
the way, sorry to interrupt. Not only was it not defeated, it was replenished entirely. I mean, that's what we've heard is that
That's
not
that
just
Yeah,
like
from
it
Blinken.
wasn't just exactly. It was 100% replenished, which we could see because in the last few weeks, in the last couple weeks in Beit Hanun, after months and months of complete blockade, complete lockdown, and induced famine in the north, no resources getting through. The resistance killed like over 50 soldiers, over 50 IOF soldiers, which is an unbelievable, literally in the sense of it is hard to conceive of feat in this context. I'm sorry, keep going.
Yeah. Um, and then starting from the first day, this is one of the major things. Starting the first day, the entry of large and sufficient is a key word, quantities of humanitarian aid and relief material and fuel, 600 trucks per day, of which 50 are fuel trucks, including 300 for the north. This fuel is desperately needed to restart, to revitalize the the medical facilities that have been completely destroyed or cut off because of lack of fuel. They are non-operational, many of them because of lack of fuel. What we also have is the exchange of detainees. So, where's the yes, also a very important point. We will There will not only be the Israeli hostages released, but and more importantly, the Palestinian hostages. Many of them have been kidnapped from their homes in the middle of the night for political reasons, meaning the opposition of the apartheid state that rules their life is reason enough for them to be kidnapped and held hostage, also tortured, also raped. We've heard so many eyewitness testimonies of Palestinian detainees, Palestinian hostages being raped in the torture camps that we've seen, like for example in State Iman and others. Um, but why is this important? It's very important because many of them have been held for so long.
Decades.
Many of them have been held. Yeah, some of them have been held for decades, literally over 20 years. Um, and
There are people who have been held since 1985.
Yeah, and also we'll get to um, how the Palestinian Authority is also very terrible when it comes to Palestinian hostages, because the Palestinian Authority does not want a few of the Palestinian hostages to be released, because these Palestinian hostages have such a massive following that they threaten the the small resemblance of political power that the Palestinian Authority holds in the West Bank. And also, we've heard yesterday that Abbas is. I think we can go back to the like the ceasefire. I don't know. Do we want to continue with the ceasefire? I think it's way more important to like. I think the confusion that I had was cleared up. If you guys have more confusions, write us in the chat. Uh,
Or if you want to go over the other parts, but I think like let's focus on Palestinian prisoners because I think that is I mean that's the reason why this is happening. This was the basis of October 7th is due to the Palestinian prisoners. And yeah, I think this is an important point. I also just want to add um, breaking news: Netanyahu says that Israel reserves the right to resume fighting in the second phase of the ceasefire.
what?
So
No way.
yeah, way
Who would have thought that uh, a
shocker, right?
a war criminal, genocidal maniac would want to do war crimes and genocide? This is very not on character, yani.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Anyway, the second stage, announcing the return of sustainable calm cessation. Where are?
Wait, but you were saying something like the Palestinian prisoners, the
Oh
people
yeah,
who have been
it was
moved
here.
over.
Yes,
Yeah,
the Palestinian Authority and Palestinian prisoners. This was
yeah,
a point that I really wanted to talk about. Is the Palestinian Authority and and Palestinian prisoners? Palestinian Authority does not want the release of, for example, Marwan Barghouti, because to people that are now in very relative power and very relatively small power, like Abbas, who is getting old and somehow still not biting the dust. Um, this the people like Marwan Barghouti threaten their small power, the small power that they have, and also the Palestinian Authority now wants to have power to be like the front that
governor.
has power in Gaza as well, which will not go over well with the Palestinians of Gaza, to be honest. But I guess we'll have to see. So yeah, very important is the release of Palestinian detainees. Um,
Yeah, I also want to add before we move on that this is of course the PA coming to power in Gaza, which is of course which is what they've announced that they want. Um, is also in the interest of a completely demilitarized Gaza, which is what they are trying to do in the West Bank and what they are failing to do, uh, given also that we've seen how many days of siege has it been on Jenin, but where Jenin has just triumphed as it does, as the resistance there does. But this is the way these are the ways in which the genocide and the demilitarization as this tactic of occupation and ethnic cleansing and displacement is being used by the Zionists through the Palestinian Authority.
oh,
So
yeah, this is why. Okay, I don't know if people could hear me the entire time, to be honest. Do, oh, doch. This is why people like always, and myself included, always say that the Palestinian Authority is the extended arm of the Israeli occupation, because the Palestinian Authority is literally, like, physically and through policy and through detentions, um, furthers the interest of the apartheid regime. It kind of makes it easier. It literally makes apartheid easier for the oppressor through kind of we've had cases where Palestinian Authority arrests Palestinians for crimes of like not liking the resistance, and once they because they have no evidence for any of this, they just release the person and then they send the file to the Israeli occupation. And if you're a Palestinian in the West Bank under Israeli occupation, you are subject to military law, which means there does not have to be any justification or like judicial trial or whatever, like any evidence to arrest you. You can just be arrested and convicted under military law with supposed secret evidence. Um, this is also like one of it, and we also have how literally the Palestinian Authority has killed Palestinian activists because they oppose the Palestinian Authority. We're talking, of course, about um, Hisham Jannat, I think his name was, and there have been a few others. Yeah, I would really like to go now to our next subject. So yeah, please be on the lookout for the Palestinians that are for the Palestinian hostages that are going to be released. And yeah, so speaking of Israel violating ceasefire
Yeah.
proposals, speaking of Netanyahu saying, "Hey, we reserve the right to violate international law again and to violate a deal that we have made again." How many deals have been breached? How many ceasefire deals have been breached by the occupation? Let's
Let's let's take
let's
a look
go.
now, shall we?
Let's
Do
take a look now.
you want to open
Okay.
this or do you want to talk through it?
Both,
Okay.
or you wanna go? Oh, I mean, we can do both.
It's
Wait.
just like complicated with the sound. It's kind of
No,
nice
no,
to just.
it's the sound is now good. If there's anybody watching, please, like, human, earth calling, somebody, just let us know that the sound is okay when we switch to the thing.
Okay.
Otherwise you'll just get shitty sound. It's on you, it's not on us, I say.
Okay.
Okay, then wait 1 second. And so right now we are approaching a ceasefire tomorrow. Today is Saturday and the ceasefire should take effect on Sunday. Let's go through a brief history of Israel's violations of ceasefire agreements. In December 2024, Israel violated its 1974 agreement on disengagement with Syria, occupying more land in Syria and establishing a demilitarized buffer zone. Which, by the way, I used to live in. My grandfather used to live in that demilitarized, occupied Syrian land. It's called Qatana, and this is the Jabal Sheikh. So another grandfather's house that I might not be able to visit again. It's just stop going to my grandfather's place, please.
They really can't get enough of your family's
Yeah,
homes. They can't even keep it
just
within
stop.
Palestine.
خلاص.
Ugh.
Get your own grandfather's house in Poland. Um, So yeah, Israel has also violated the ceasefire agreement it signed with Hezbollah in Lebanon in late 2024, with more than 470 times, killing 32 people and injuring 39. More than 430 times they violated the
470 times.
and not only this, didn't they also attack like the Irish safekeeping mission as well?
Yes. Yes.
It was literally attacked, right? Like I'm not. Yeah, it's just so much happening. Israel doing so many so many breaches of international law. You really can't keep up. Yani,
Which is also part of the tactic, is that
yeah.
not only are they violating all of these ceasefires, all of these agreements, all of international law, which is such a joke repeatedly, they are doing it with such regularity that it becomes normalized and you cannot actually keep up with it. You can't keep track of it. So you have to kind of assume, or we don't, but people do, that it is standard and that it therefore should be allowed. Like this is what they've actually done. It is their formula, it's their equation every time. They say, no, of course we wouldn't do that. And then they attack every single hospital in Gaza. And then they bomb every single university in Gaza.
But
When you can't keep track of it, it becomes the norm.
yeah,
And
it
then they go on
literally
to kill these.
normalizes. Yeah, it literally normalizes the insane amounts of violence that um the othered people, that the dehumanized Arab dies, is like it becomes a normal thing. Dehumanized Arabs always die. What's the issue? But this is what complete impunity creates in people. You cannot like if Russia had done half of this, we had what's his name? We had the German government, Olaf Scholz, um, saying that it's a genocide, that Russia might be guilty of genocide because they attacked one hospital, um, which I'm all for applying this kind of logic. How many genocides has Israel committed right now? We've had
All of
36
the
hospitals
genocides.
in Gaza, and almost all of them have been attacked, and many of them destroyed, and doctors kidnapped, and dehumanized, and raped in fucking torture camps. If
To death.
Yeah, to death. If like I'm all for applying human rights laws with the harshest gavel you have, but if you keep uh, giving a settler colonial state impunity to continue its settler colony building, this impunity um, births kind of a gull, you know, like it's very, very um, like it creates like this egotistic look at suffering, as if like, yeah, of course we get to violate human rights. We've been doing this since 1948. What's the issue? So yeah,
And I mean, on that, on the next slide that we have, during the week-long I mean, it wasn't a ceasefire; it was a humanitarian pause at the beginning of the genocide. The last time that Palestinians were in Gaza were able to breathe at all. Um, Israel violated the ceasefire 3 times, and that sounds insignificant compared to the fact that they violated the ceasefire with Hezbollah 470 times. But ceasefires are not meant to be violated and people murdered when they're supposed to be able to breathe during a genocide. I mean, every single level to this is so absurd. It's kind of, I mean, it's, yeah, it's layers and layers of bloodthirst.
yeah,
But I remember sitting and watching those videos and reports of the IOF soldiers opening fire on multiple Palestinians and murdering 2 Palestinians during the humanitarian pause. And there was some pushback about it, but it was mostly just by this point, how many times have they violated ceasefire agreements in the 75 years, prior to this humanitarian pause? It's completely normalized. It was like, oh, Israel only broke the ceasefire agreement, only violated it 3 times. They did well this time. A
yeah.
minus.
It's so absurd. We'll also get back to. I will go back to an argument made by like really non. I'm trying to really phrase it as not harsh, as like soft as I can, but really the dumbest motherfucking idiots on the planet. Like actually the respectfully. So yeah, which is like, yeah, there was a ceasefire on the 6th of October. No, no, the Israel has been bombing Gaza since like 2 weeks before the 6th of October. They bombed Gaza. Last year they bombed Gaza. 2021, Gaza was also bombed. This is it's yeah. We'll get back to that. Um, So, oh yeah, here, 2021. After the May 2021 war, Israel signed a ceasefire agreement with Hamas on May 20. Within a month, Israel had violated the ceasefire agreement twice. First, on June 16th, 2021, Israel bombed Khan Yunis. Second, on June 18th, Israel bombed the north of Beit Lahia. So,
These aren't like, oh, I had a slip up. Some diaper soldier, hadn't put the safety on his gun and just killed someone, which is also shit that they say. This is like, no, we dropped a bomb. We dropped a bomb on Khan Yunis.
yeah. And like, it's like, oops, I slipped and pressed the genocide button. Like, do you see what I mean? Like, Israel has only one speed. If every okay, Israel is the hammer. You know, the in this analogy, if you're a hammer, every problem seems like a nail. Like, this is the only thing that Israel knows how to do is bomb. The only thing, there is nothing. And when
They
I say
certainly can't
nothing,
do ground invasions.
yeah, it's certainly not ground invasions. This is exactly my point. They have no the only thing, the military superiority that they have, the only military superiority that they have is shown through bombs. And it's not because the question of demographic situation in historic Palestine is very very crucial. This is why they have the apartheid system. So you either go or you get killed, or you live in a humiliating system that views you as a third class citizen at best if you have the Israeli pass, and as a non citizen, non human at worst if you are a Palestinian under occupation. But this is the entire point, because it's a demographic thing. They do not like to send ground soldiers. Instead, they have one speed, which is bomb Palestinians. They don't do anything else. That is the point. Um, so yeah. And also, between 2012 and 2014, Israel violated the ceasefire agreement it had signed with Hamas twice as often as Hamas. Out of Israel's 191 violations, 10% resulted in death and 42% in injuries and detentions. Out of the 75 Palestinian violations, 4% resulted in injuries and none in death.
There were
Um,
no deaths on the violation of the Palestinian side. I mean, that's the point, is that Israel continued murdering people because they always continue murdering people.
yeah, exactly. If you're a hammer, everything's a nail. That is, yeah. On November 4th, 2008, Israel brazenly broke a ceasefire agreement it had made with Hamas on June 19th, 2008, that had led to a historic drop in violence. Israel had invaded the Gaza Strip with ground troops and killed 6 Palestinians. A period of historic quiet quickly turned to historic violence. Less than 2 months later, Israel waged a full-blown war on Gaza's 1.5 million residents, killing 1,400 Palestinians, including 700 to 900 civilians and 288 children. What is so fucking annoying is that these numbers um, sound very, uh, very trivial in comparison to the amounts of horror that Israel has leashed on Gaza, on Palestinians in Gaza for the past 15 months. Um,
But
we
of
will,
course,
yeah,
1,400 people.
yeah, we will
Someone
likely,
dies in New York,
yeah,
maybe hear about it. Two people die in New York, it's big news. Five people, 10 people, it's like the biggest story you've ever heard. Can you imagine if 1,400 people were murdered in New York City? The fucking world would stop.
yeah. See, it's only terrorism if it's done by brown people. It's
Not even
only
by brown people.
terrorism. It's
If
never
it's done
terrorism.
to white people.
Yeah. What?
It's not if it's done by brown people. It's only terrorism if it's done to white people. It doesn't matter
Yes,
who the perpetrator
exactly. Yeah,
is.
the
Yeah.
victim, the creation of worthy victims and unworthy victims is very 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 prominent. This is what we see. Like, 1,400 Palestinians, 288 children. Um, I have children in my life. I know. Um, I just know how like silly and fun and just careless they can be. And these are children, man. Like, you have children in Gaza that are happy because there's a ceasefire. When I was 8 years old, I did not know what a ceasefire meant. I did not know what any of this meant. And we're out here talking about how we want to be happy, yes. But is the job done? No. Because this horror has been happening for 76 years. 76 years of apartheid, of death to children, to civilians, to women. There are, like, just
You want
it.
to take the link down so we go back on the screen? Sorry. No.
Yeah. Like, just think about the fact that we have actual documentaries just about Palestinian women giving birth at checkpoints. We have more than one documentary about this. We should be happy that the killing through bombs has stopped. But if history has taught us anything, and we should learn from history and be better than Germans, um, Israel will probably violate the ceasefire agreement. And what will happen when this is me calling it already. Israel will violate the ceasefire agreement. And whenever Hamas retaliates, it will be the story of the day. Hamas did terrorism. We need to continue the genocide. This is why it's always. That's why I say, like, you can't be a Palestinian without having this in the back of your mind, this feeling that there is always trauma. It's always it's consistent. It's persistent throughout the years. Um, and this trauma will only stop when oppression ends. This trauma will only stop when Palestine is free. So we need to keep working until Palestine is free.
And I think that's what we need to know. And that's why when we talk about our reaction, being happy, being relieved, being whatever, what it comes down to is that as long as there is that potential, anything that ranges from potential to the certainty that the genocide will continue, that means the genocide has not stopped. So what are you going to do now that the bombing may have paused, but the genocide continues? What are you going to do now?
Yeah. I think we can just leave it at that. It's an open question. You guys can yeah.
Ask yourselves, ask the people around you, and come up with answers.
Yeah. Oh, thank you guys for listening. Stay creative, stay powerful, keep your heads up, and as always, just free Palestine. See you
Free
next time.
Palestine.
See you next week. Next week we do it maybe on Sunday actually. Bye.